My story begins with a sentence I never thought I'd hear from my own child. My mother stole my joy. She didn't whisper it. She didn't say it in private. She said it loudly, in front of a room full of people, like she had been waiting years to throw those words at me. It was my church's Sunday gathering, the last place you expect your heart to break. I was setting plates on the table, just helping the ladies with the food. I heard her voice before I saw her. My daughter, Olivia. Tall, beautiful, always so put together. She walked into the hall, and you could feel all the heads turn. She knew how to hold a room. She always did. One of the younger women asked her, "Oh, Olivia, your mom tells such sweet stories about you. You must be proud of her." Olivia laughed. A sharp laugh. A laugh that didn't belong in that soft, warm room. Then she said it. "I don't know about sweet. She stole my joy. Ask her." I froze. I remember the spoon slipping from my hand and clinking against the metal tray. I turned toward her, not sure if she really said those words or if my mind twisted them out of fear. But the room had gone silent. Every face was stuck between pity and curiosity. And Olivia, she didn't even look at me. She said those words like I was just another woman in the crowd. I walked outside before anyone could touch my shoulder and say, "Are you all right?" I didn't want comfort. I wanted to understand. I stood by my car and let the cold air hit my face. My hand shook even though it wasn't that cold. I'm 68 years old. I've lived enough life to know pain. But nothing aches like pain from your own child. It sneaks under the skin. It settles in the bones. I whispered to myself, like I was trying to steady my heart, why would she say that? Why now? For the life of me, I couldn't think of anything that made sense. I raised that girl with everything I had. I worked 2 jobs when her father left. I packed lunches with silly notes even when I was exhausted. I attended every school recital, even the ones where she didn't want me there because she felt too grown for her mother to cheer loudly. Was I perfect? No. But stealing her joy? That felt cruel. It felt like a punishment for a crime I didn't know I'd committed. I drove home slowly, my eyes burning. My house felt too quiet, too still. It was the house where I watched Olivia take her first steps, where she learned to ride a bike in the backyard, where she cried on her first night of high school because someone made fun of her hair. I sat on the couch and stared at the family picture on the wall. Olivia and me. She was 10 in that photo, holding my hand like she never wanted to let go. How does a child go from that to calling her own mother a thief? I didn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. The darkness made my thoughts louder. I went over every memory, every birthday, every fight, every mistake, every moment where I might have said something wrong or held her too tight or not tight enough. And then morning came. With morning came something worse than silence. A message from my neighbor, Clara. She was always a kind woman. She had known Olivia since she was little, and she always defended her with that soft, motherly pride. Her text said, "I think you need to know what your daughter is telling people." My stomach dropped. I called her right away. Her voice was slow, careful, like she didn't want to hurt me more than she had to. She said, "Your daughter told everyone you ruined her life, that you destroyed something precious, that you kept her from happiness." I covered my mouth. A sound escaped me that I didn't recognize, not a cry, not a sob, something deeper. "What did she say I did?" I whispered. Clara hesitated. And that hesitation was worse than any answer. She didn't give details, but she said, "You stole her joy when she needed it most." Needed it most. Those words felt heavy, like they were tied to a memory I had buried years ago. A memory from a time when Olivia was 17, a summer night, a boy with a dangerous smile, a secret she begged me not to tell anyone. I felt my breath catch. No, it couldn't be about that. It had been so long. She had promised me she understood. She had thanked me back then. But maybe she didn't understand it all. Maybe she never forgave me? I walked to the window and stared out at my yard, the trees still wet from last night's rain. I felt small, smaller than I had felt in years. And then, as if the universe wanted to make sure I didn't have a moment of peace, I saw something surprising. A figure, walking down the sidewalk toward my house. Slow steps, head down, holding something in their hand. At first, I thought it might be a delivery person. But no. As the figure got closer, my heart started pounding because I recognized the walk, the posture, the small tilt of the head. It wasn't a delivery person. It was someone from the past, someone who knew the truth behind that summer, someone I hadn't seen in almost 20 years. And they were coming straight to my door. I stepped back from the window, my hand over my heart. What could they possibly want now? Why appear after all these years? And what did this have to do with Olivia? I didn't know yet, but I could feel it deep in my bones. Whatever they came to tell me was about to change everything. As the doorbell rang, I realized the person standing outside was the last person on earth who should know anything about my daughter. But somehow they knew more than I did.
The doorbell rang again, a long, sharp ring that cut straight through the quiet of my house. I stood there for a moment, holding my breath. I don't know if it was fear or memory that froze me, maybe both, because the person at my door wasn't someone you forget easily, and certainly not someone who would show up after all these years without a reason. I opened the door slowly, and there she was, Marianne. Her hair was gray now, pulled back in a loose bun. Her shoulders looked smaller, but her eyes, those sharp, knowing eyes, were the same. Eyes that had seen too much. Eyes that once watched my daughter walk into trouble she had no idea how to escape. We stared at each other like two old ghosts. She held an envelope in her hand. "I didn't come to cause trouble," she said quietly. "But trouble has already started, hasn't it?" My throat tightened. "What do you want, Marianne?" She took a slow breath. "I heard what Olivia is telling people." I felt stunned, almost sick. How could you possibly know that? She stepped forward, lowering her voice. "Because she told my son. Her son. The boy. The boy from that summer. The one with the smile that fooled my daughter and frightened me. The boy who grew into a man I hoped she'd never see again." My heart beat like a drum. I opened the screen door and motioned her in, though every part of me wanted to slam it shut. She walked inside with the same quiet confidence she had years ago. She paused in my living room, looking at the picture frames, the old wooden table, the worn couch. "So much time," she murmured. "You'd think old wounds would fade." "Some don't," I said. She nodded, settling onto my couch like she wasn't sure her knees could hold her. "I won't stay long. I just need to tell you something." I folded my arms. "Then say it." She held out the envelope. "It's from him." I stepped back. "I don't want anything from him. Not now, not ever." "You may not want it," she whispered, "but you need it, especially with what Olivia is telling people." My stomach twisted. What exactly did Olivia say to him? Marianne sighed. She said you destroyed her happiness, that you ruined her one chance at love. The room felt smaller, hotter, like the air had turned to steam. She said, Marianne continued softly, that she stole your joy. The words hit me like they did at church, except worse now, because they didn't come from strangers. They came from someone who knew the old secret, someone who knew exactly what happened on June 12th. I sat down across from her. Why is this happening now? I whispered. Because he found her, she said. I froze. What do you mean he found her? He saw her by chance a few months back, recognized her immediately. He never got over her, in his own twisted way. In his own twisted way, I murmured. Yes, I remember. Marianne flinched, just a little. I'm not here to defend him. I know what he is. I know what he did. And what he almost did, I said, my voice tightening. She closed her eyes. That, too. Silence filled the room for a moment. Then she said something that made my heart drop. He told her his version of that night, a version where you were the villain. My breath left my body. A long, slow ache spread across my chest. He told her I ruined her life? Yes. And she believed him? She believed the story she needed, Marianne said gently. I clenched my hands together. I saved her that night. I know, she said, but your daughter wasn't told the details. She never knew the whole truth. She didn't need to know, I whispered. She was 17. She was hurting. I took the blame so she wouldn't carry that pain. And now, Marianne said softly, she's carrying a different kind of pain, one built on lies. I looked away from her, toward the window. The sun was rising higher, lighting up the backyard. I saw the old maple tree where Olivia used to climb and laugh. I saw the spot where she fell and scratched her knee. I saw the place she sat crying after her first real heartbreak. Every corner of that yard held a memory. Some warm, some heavy, but none as heavy as the memory of that summer night. I swallowed hard. Why did you come? She looked at me with a steady, sad expression. Because he's talking to her again, and he's telling her things that will hurt her, things that will hurt you, and I'm tired of watching my son destroy people. I felt a strange mix of gratitude and anger. Gratitude for the warning, anger that it was needed at all. What's in the envelope? I asked. Proof, she said. Pieces of the truth she never saw. Things you may need soon. My fingers twitched. I didn't open it. I wasn't ready. Be careful, she said, standing slowly. Your daughter's heart is fragile right now, and fragile hearts believe the wrong voices. She walked to the door, paused, and added quietly, He's not done with her. Then she stepped outside and closed the door behind her. I stayed still for a long time, listening, breathing, trying not to break. When I finally picked up the envelope, my hands were trembling. Before I could open it, my phone buzzed. A message from someone I didn't recognize. The text said only, Ask her about June 12th. My heart dropped so fast I felt dizzy. Because that date, that night, that secret, was the one thing I prayed my daughter would never bring back into the light. I sank into the couch, gripping the envelope in one hand and my phone in the other. And I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just gossip. This wasn't just anger. This wasn't even about Olivia's pain. This was a warning that came too late. Before I could think anymore, another message came through. This one from my neighbor, Clara. People are talking about you at the grocery store. You need to get out of the house. I grabbed my coat, not because I wanted food, not because I wanted fresh air, because I wanted answers. I drove to the grocery store with my heart pounding so hard I felt it in my throat. As soon as I pushed open the door, I felt eyes on me.
Two women whispered near the produce section. A man stared from the bakery. Someone I knew from church looked away quickly, pretending not to see me. Then I heard it. A whisper behind me. She's the one who ruined her own daughter's life. I felt the room tilt. I turned around slowly, tears burning but not falling. And right then, I saw something that made my chest tighten. A woman I didn't know was watching me. She wasn't whispering. She wasn't judging. She was studying me. Like she knew my face. Like she knew my story. Then she walked toward me with purpose and leaned close. Her voice was barely a breath. You need to leave. Someone is spreading lies, and it's not your daughter. I blinked, startled. What do you mean? She squeezed my arm and whispered, the person hurting you is coming for her next. Before I could ask who she was, she stepped away, disappeared down the next aisle, and was gone. And I stood there trembling, realizing something terrible. This wasn't about gossip. This wasn't about anger. It wasn't even about Olivia's pain. This was a warning that came too late. When I returned home, there was an envelope on my doorstep, one with no name, no address, and inside it, a date that made my blood run cold. June 12th.
The drive home from the grocery store felt longer than usual. Maybe it was the way people stared. Maybe it was the whisper I heard. Or maybe it was the woman who warned me that someone was coming for my daughter next. Her voice stayed in my ears all the way down Maple Road, soft but urgent. When I turned onto my street, the world looked normal. Kids on bikes, a man trimming his hedges, a dog barking at a squirrel. But my house looked different. Not physically, but in that way when you know something is waiting for you. And I was right. There was an envelope sitting on my doorstep. Not like Marianne's envelope. This one was plain, white, brittle around the corners. No name, no address. Just sitting there like someone had delivered it and run. I picked it up and felt something shift inside me. Fear, memory, dread? I couldn't tell. My fingers were cold even though the sun was warm on my back. I walked inside, locked the door, and sat at my kitchen table. That table has seen so many things. Birthday cakes, late-night tears, burnt dinners, surprise flowers. But today, it saw something darker. I opened the envelope. There was only one thing inside. A small, folded piece of paper and a date written in bold, black ink. June 12th. My hands tightened around the paper. The ink wasn't smudged, but it looked like it had been written with anger or urgency or both. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes, and felt that night rush back to me like a storm I never survived. June 12th. The night Olivia came home with mascara smeared down her cheeks, her hands shaking, her voice fading in and out as she begged me not to call anyone. The night she told me something that made my blood freeze. The night I made a decision. One that saved her, yes, but one that destroyed something, too. I whispered into my empty kitchen, "Why is this happening now?" Before I could think further, I heard a soft sound from my living room, a thump. Not loud, but enough to make my heart jump. I stood slowly, gripping the edge of the table for balance. My house wasn't big, but in that moment it felt like a maze. I stepped forward cautiously, my heartbeat in my ears. When I reached the living room, my breath caught. Someone had pushed a piece of paper through the mail slot. It was still sliding on the floor. I picked it up and saw handwriting I recognized immediately. It was Olivia's. A short message. Shaky letters. Rushed. "Stop talking to people about that night. You ruined everything once. Don't do it again." My knees almost gave out. I had to sit down. My own daughter. My sweet girl. The one I protected my whole life. She thought I was the villain. I read the note again and again like maybe the words would change, but they didn't.
And the more I read them, the more another realization crept in. She wasn't writing like someone who was angry. She was writing like someone who was scared. Scared of what? Scared of who? Scared of the truth? I reached for my phone, my hand trembling. I tried calling her, but it rang once and went straight to voicemail. Not even the chance to say her name. I sat quietly for a moment. Then something in me, maybe worry, maybe mother's instinct, told me to check the porch again. I opened the door slowly and stepped outside. That's when I saw them. Footprints. Small, light footprints on the dust of the porch, leading down the steps and turning toward the street. My throat tightened. They were fresh. I looked up and down the street, but nothing stood out. No car driving away, no figure ducking behind a tree, nothing. Just silence. I went back inside and sat on the steps, holding Olivia's note and the date paper in my hands. There was no way she came here alone. Someone brought her, or someone watched her, or someone told her to leave that message. And that thought made my stomach twist. I pressed my palm to my forehead. "What are you mixed up in, Olivia?" I whispered. Before I could think further, I heard a soft sound from my phone again. A new message. This one from a number with no name and no picture. Another stranger. The message said, "She doesn't know the truth. Tell her before he does." My heart stopped for a second. He. There was only one he. The boy. Now a man. The man who hurt her. The man I kept away from her. The man whose mother had shown up at my door just hours earlier. I typed back quickly. "Who is this?" The reply came in 2 seconds. Someone who heard him bragging. I felt the air leave my lungs. Bragging? Bragging about what? Bragging about the lies he told her? Or about what happened that night? I tried calling the number, but as soon as it rang, it disconnected. Then another message arrived. "You're running out of time." My fingers went cold. I stared at the envelope, the date, my daughter's note, the warnings, pieces of a puzzle I didn't have the picture for yet. But one thing was clear. Someone was working very hard to bring that night back into the present. Someone was pushing my daughter away from me. Someone was whispering things in her ear. Someone who wanted her confused. Someone who wanted her hurt. And maybe someone who wanted revenge. I stood up, got a glass of water, but my hands were shaking too badly to drink it. I forced myself to sit down and breathe slowly. Think. Just think. There were only 3 people who knew the truth about that night. Me, Olivia, and him. Olivia didn't know the full truth. Not everything. She knew the pain, she knew fear, but she didn't know the decision I made for her safety. And he knew exactly what he did, exactly what he tried, exactly why I stepped in. I pulled open drawer after drawer, looking for the old police report I had filed and later withdrawn. I wanted something concrete, something to hold, something to prove that I did what I had to do. But the folder wasn't where it used to be. I checked the bedroom closet. Not there. I checked my old filing box. Not there. Then my heart dropped. Someone had been in my house. I rushed to my bedroom. The window lock was undone, not broken, just undone. Someone used the old sliding trick. Someone who knew what they were doing. I felt the room tilt. I grabbed the edge of the dresser to steady myself. Someone went into my personal things. Someone took the only written proof of that night. Someone wanted the truth gone, and someone wanted the lies to spread. I sat down on my bed, breathing hard. But then something strange happened. A sound, soft, a tap, coming from outside my window. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. I walked toward the window slowly, holding my breath, scared of what I might see. When I pushed the curtain aside, my blood ran cold. There was a note stuck to the glass, written in the same handwriting as the envelope on my doorstep. Bold, dark, spiteful. 3 words. You failed her. My knees weakened, my heart hammered so loudly I could barely hear anything else. And in that moment, I knew whoever was doing this wasn't finished. Not with me, and not with Olivia. Before I could remove the note, another message arrived on my phone, a voice recording from Olivia, and in the background of her trembling voice, I heard a man whisper something that nearly stopped my heart.
I drove home with the window cracked open, trying to breathe. Even the air felt heavy. I kept hearing her words in my head. You stole my joy. Like I had reached inside her life and taken something precious on purpose. The truth sat deep in my chest, pressing down hard. I had never wanted to take anything from her. I only wanted to protect her. That's what mothers do, right? We protect, even when our children think we are ruining their lives. When I walked into my house, everything felt too bright and too quiet. Her room door was half open, like it had been waiting for her. I stood there and felt something old and aching move inside me. She used to leave little notes on my pillow when she was small. Silly drawings, crooked hearts, tiny things that meant everything. Somewhere along the way, those hearts turned into walls. I sat on her bed and ran my fingers over the blanket she used to love. My throat tightened. I whispered to the empty room, I'm trying, baby, I'm really trying. But talking to a room is pointless. Rooms don't answer. Children don't answer either sometimes. My phone buzzed. It was my sister asking if I was okay because she'd seen a post online. My daughter had written something vague but sharp. She didn't mention my name, but anyone who knew us could guess. Something about some people pretending to care and joy thieves. I closed my eyes. Joy thieves. As if I held a knife to her happiness. I wanted to call her right then. I wanted to go to her house, ring the bell, and stand there until she opened the door. But I'd done all that before. Every time I pushed, she ran further. Every time I backed away, she said I didn't love her. It was a maze I couldn't escape. I walked to the kitchen, made tea, held the cup with both hands as it could study me. Then something happened that shifted everything. I heard a sound from the front porch, a quiet thump, like someone dropped something. My heart jumped. I opened the door and looked down. It was an envelope. No name, no decoration, just a thick white envelope sitting on the mat, pushed under the door. My breath caught. I picked it up slowly. It felt heavier than paper should feel, like it carried a weight that belonged to years, not pages. I stood there, staring at it. My hands trembled a little. Something in me already knew this envelope wasn't simple. It wasn't harmless. It was connected to everything she refused to tell me. It was tied to the moment she said I stole her joy. It was tied to the real reason she hates me. And that reason, the one I had tried to bury years ago, was about to come back up. I took a long breath and opened the envelope. And what I saw inside froze me right where I stood, because in that envelope was the one thing I prayed my daughter would never find. And once she had it, everything in our lives changed, completely.
I stared at the paper in my hands, unable to speak. It was just a single sheet, aged and folded so many times it had soft creases along the edges. But what it contained was anything but ordinary. My fingers shook as I unfolded it fully. The words on the page were written in a familiar hand, Olivia's father's handwriting. My ex-husband, gone from my life for decades, but somehow still present in all the wrong ways. The letter was addressed to my daughter. It detailed his version of events from that night, June 12th, the night that had changed everything. But the thing that struck me most was how distorted it was. Every word was designed to make me the villain. Every line twisted my actions into cruelty and neglect. I sank onto the couch, gripping the edges of the envelope as if it were a lifeline. My mind raced back 20 years, to the night I had to make the hardest decision of my life. Olivia was just 17. She had fallen for a boy I knew was dangerous, a boy who didn't see her as a daughter or a friend, but as a pawn in his own selfish games. That night, I had stepped in. I had called the police. I had created a diversion to keep her safe. And I had taken the blame for actions I never should have had to shoulder alone. I had hoped she would never remember. I had hoped she would never learn. I had wanted to protect her from guilt, shame, and heartbreak. But now, looking at this letter, I realized the past wasn't buried. Someone had dug it up and delivered it straight into her hands. I could feel my chest tighten as I imagined her reading it, believing every cruel word, thinking I had destroyed her life. I thought of all the times she had turned her back on me lately, the notes she had left, the messages she had sent, accusations that stung like knives. Every moment of her anger suddenly made sense, but understanding it didn't make it hurt any less. I picked up the phone and tried calling her. No answer. I tried again. Still nothing. It was as if she had vanished, leaving me alone with the ghost of that night, the letter, and the crushing weight of a misunderstanding that had grown over decades. The envelope fell from my hands. I pressed my forehead against the back of the couch, feeling tears sting my eyes. I had raised her with everything I had. Every choice I made, every sacrifice I endured, I did for her. And yet, she now thought I had stolen her joy, that I had ruined her life, and that I was the villain she had been warned about. I couldn't sit there any longer. I had to understand what had been put into her mind. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. The next morning, I drove to the old neighborhood where Olivia and I used to take long walks. I wanted to see if anyone had seen her lately, if anyone knew how she was coping with all this, and, if possible, get a chance to talk to her directly. When I arrived, the familiar streets were quiet, almost too quiet. I walked past the old playground where she had spent countless hours swinging, laughing, and sometimes crying. I remembered her small hands gripping the chains, her hair blowing in the wind, and the wide-eyed wonder she had for the world. And I thought, how did we get here? How did that joy turn into pain, mistrust, and silence? I stopped at the corner store hoping to hear something. A few neighbors were chatting outside. I overheard a woman whisper, "She's blaming her mother for everything. They say she's completely cut off." My stomach dropped. That was my Olivia, my child, and she was trapped in someone else's version of events, a version that painted me as the villain. I felt helpless, but I couldn't stay there long. I needed more information. That night, I sat at my kitchen table reviewing the letter again and again. I highlighted phrases, reread sentences, tried to trace the path that had led my daughter to believe such cruel lies. Every word seemed designed to manipulate, to twist truth, to divide mother and daughter. And it worked. It had worked. I finally understood. She didn't hate me for what I had done. She hated the lie that had been planted in her mind. And now, the real fight was not just to protect her from the truth she didn't know, but to protect her from the person who was still controlling her perception, the one who had been the danger all along. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't wait any longer. I couldn't let her continue down this path, believing the wrong story, hating the person who had always tried to save her. I had to confront her. I had to reach her before he could twist the story further. But as I prepared to leave, my phone buzzed again. Another message from an unknown number. My hands shook as I opened it. "You think you're ready to tell her? You're too late. She's already in his hands." I froze. The color drained from my face. My heart pounded. I couldn't believe it. Could she really be with him right now? How had he found her? How had he manipulated her so thoroughly after all these years? Tears stung my eyes. I wanted to scream, to call someone, to do anything. But deep down, I knew I had to be calm. I had to think clearly. I had to save my daughter from the shadow that had haunted her life from the moment she fell in love with him. I grabbed my coat, I grabbed my keys, and I whispered to myself, I will fix this. I have to. And with that, I stepped outside into the night, heart racing, knowing that the confrontation I had avoided for so long was now inevitable. I didn't know what I would find or if she would even listen, but I had no choice. My daughter's life and her heart depended on it. As I reached her street, I saw him, her ex, standing at her doorstep. And in that moment, I realized the fight to protect her wasn't over. It was just beginning.
I pulled my car to the curb and sat there for a long moment, staring at her house. The street was quiet, too quiet. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly I thought I might crush it. I could see her front porch, the familiar flower pots, the little wind chime that always jingled when someone passed by. And then I saw him. The man, her ex, the one I had warned her about all those years ago. He was leaning casually against the porch railing, hands in his pockets, looking far too comfortable for someone who shouldn't even be there. My stomach dropped. I could see Olivia through the window, pacing back and forth in her living room. She didn't notice him yet, but she would soon, and when she did, I swallowed hard. I had to move. I couldn't just sit here. I grabbed my coat and my bag and stepped out of the car. The night air hit me sharply, pulling me into the moment. My heart was hammering, my legs trembling, but I had to be strong. I had to protect her. I walked up the sidewalk slowly, making sure I didn't make too much noise. Every step felt like it was in slow motion. I could see him glance over his shoulder, sensing movement. His eyes narrowed slightly, and I knew he had recognized me. "Olivia?" I called softly as I reached the porch steps. She spun around at the sound of my voice. Her eyes went wide. And then, in an instant, fear replaced surprise. She backed away slightly, like she didn't know if she should run or cry. "Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. I took another step forward, holding my hands out, palms open. "It's me, baby. I'm here. I just want to talk." He stepped forward too, blocking the doorway just slightly. "I don't think now is a good time," he said smoothly. I felt a rush of anger and fear hit me at the same time. "You don't get to speak to my daughter that way," I said. My voice was firmer than I expected. "She is not yours, and you are not welcome here." He smirked. "I'm just talking. She invited me." Olivia shook her head violently. "No, I didn't. Mom, I stepped closer to her, gently taking her arm. "It's okay. Listen to me. Don't listen to him. Please, just trust me for a minute." Her eyes filled with tears, and she looked between us both. I could see the confusion and fear in her expression. I could see how carefully he had prepared her, how he had twisted the story to make me the villain. "You have to understand," I said softly, kneeling to her level. "Everything I did that night, everything I said, it was to protect you. You don't know the whole story. But it's not what he's telling you. He's lying." Her hands trembled. She wanted to run, but she stayed. And in that moment, I realized she was listening, just enough to hear my heart. He stepped closer again, trying to push me back. "You need to stay out of this," he warned, voice low. I squared my shoulders. "No, you're done controlling her. Not tonight, not ever." Olivia's eyes darted between us. "Mom, I don't know what to believe." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I know it's confusing. I know it hurts. But I need you to trust me. Just for 1 minute. Listen to me before you believe his lies." He took another step forward, and my instinct screamed at me. I couldn't let him manipulate her anymore. I put myself fully between him and my daughter. Back off, right now. For a second, the night was frozen. The air was thick with tension. And then, Olivia's voice cut through. "Stop it, both of you. I don't want to fight. I don't know what to feel." Her words hit both of us. I looked at her and saw the pain in her eyes, the same pain I had tried to shield her from for years. I felt a surge of determination. "Olivia," I said, my voice soft but firm, "listen carefully. Everything he's told you about me, about that night, is false. I did what I had to do to keep you safe. You were in danger, and I chose to take the blame so you wouldn't have to carry it. I never stole your joy. I never wanted to hurt you." She blinked, tears falling freely now.
and looked at him. And for the first time, I saw doubt flicker across his face. "You need to remember something," I continued, holding her hands in mine. "I have always loved you, even when it was hard, even when you didn't understand. That night, I protected you. Always." Her hands gripped mine tightly. She trembled, but she stayed. And for the first time in months, or maybe years, I saw a glimmer of the little girl I had raised. He stepped back finally, a shadow of frustration crossing his face. "This isn't over," he said, and then turned and walked away down the street. I exhaled deeply, my legs finally giving way as I sank to the porch step beside Olivia. She buried her face in my shoulder, shaking with sobs. "I'm sorry, Mom," she whispered, muffled against my coat. I believed him. I was so angry at you." I hugged her tightly. "It's okay, baby. You didn't know. You couldn't know. But you're safe now. I promise you. I'm not going anywhere." And in that embrace, I felt something lift. Not completely, not entirely. There were still pieces of the past that would take time to heal. But for the first time in years, I felt hope. Just when I thought the worst was over, Olivia pulled out her phone, and I saw a message from him. A message she hadn't opened yet, and my heart sunk all over again.
Olivia pulled back from my embrace, wiping her tears with the sleeve of her sweater. Her hands were trembling, and I could see the lingering fear in her eyes. But then, her phone buzzed. She looked at it, and the color drained from her face. I reached for it gently. "Baby, what is it?" She hesitated. It's from him. I didn't open it yet." My stomach clenched. I knew exactly what it was. That man, he was relentless. Every lie he had whispered over the years, every manipulation, every half-truth, he wasn't done. And now, he had her attention again. "Show me," I said softly, trying to keep my own voice steady. She unlocked the phone and handed it to me. The screen lit up, displaying a single message. "You think you know the truth, but she lied to you. She took your life, not me. Open your eyes before it's too late." I felt a shiver run down my spine. My hands gripped the phone tightly. My heart raced. That message, it was calculated, cruel, designed to confuse, to plant seeds of doubt, to make her believe I was the villain. The very thing I had feared for months was happening. He was twisting her perception, and she was reading every word. "Mom, what does it mean?" She whispered, voice shaking. Did I get it wrong?" I took a deep breath, looking into her eyes. "No, baby, you didn't get it wrong. He's lying. He's always lied. Remember June 12th? Remember what happened that night? I saved you, Olivia. You have to trust me." She shook her head. "But the message, he says it was you, that you ruined everything. How do I know you're telling the truth now?" I reached for her hands, holding them tightly. "Because I've loved you every single day of your life, and because I carried the burden of that night so you wouldn't have to. He's the one trying to control your story, not me. Not ever." Her tears started to fall again, but this time, they were mixed with confusion and the beginnings of understanding. I could see the storm inside her, the fear, the anger, the hurt. But slowly, I saw her start to grasp the truth. I don't know how to believe anything anymore," she admitted. "You don't have to believe everything at once," I said gently. "Just believe me right now. Believe that I never wanted to hurt you and that I will always be here to protect you." She nodded, burying her face in my shoulder again. I held her close, feeling the tension ease slightly. But the danger wasn't gone. That message, it was a trap. He wanted her to doubt me, to question our bond, to feel alone. I pulled back slightly, looking at her face. "We have to stop him, Olivia. We have to confront him before he twists anything else. before he gets the chance to hurt you again. Her eyes widened. Confront him? Mom, I don't know if I can. Yes, you can, I said firmly. You've already faced him today. And now we'll do it together. We'll face the truth together. And we'll end this before it hurts either of us again. She nodded slowly, her hands tightening around mine. I could see the fear, yes, but also determination. I had raised her to be strong, even if life had clouded that strength over time. And now, that strength was returning, guided by love and trust. I glanced at her phone again. Another message had arrived. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I knew what it would say. More lies, more manipulation, more poison meant to divide us. Instead, I took a deep breath. Olivia, we can't let him control the story anymore. It's our story now, and we're going to tell it the way it really happened, together. Her eyes met mine. She nodded, a small flicker of courage appearing. Okay, together, she whispered. I held her hands and looked at her with all the love and determination I could muster. We're not running anymore. Not from the past, not from him, not from the lies. And in that moment, I realized something. The fight for her trust was only beginning. The fight for the truth was just starting. But I wasn't afraid anymore, because I wasn't alone. My daughter, my little girl, the one who once believed I stole her joy, was now ready to stand beside me. Before we could make a plan, her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a video. And what we saw on it made my blood run cold. He wasn't just sending messages. He was watching her.
Olivia's hands were shaking as she handed me her phone. Her eyes were wide, pupils blown, as if she couldn't believe what she was about to see. I braced myself. I had a feeling this wasn't just another manipulative message. It wasn't just a warning or a lie. No, it was worse. She unlocked the phone and a video file popped up. She hesitated for a split second, then pressed play. The screen flickered, and there he was. The man who had haunted her life for years, standing in a shadowed room. But it wasn't just him. Behind him, clear as day, were images of her, our home, her bedroom window, the living room where she had left her phone on the table earlier that day. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. He had been watching her, observing, tracking, every step, every move. Olivia gasped, burying her face in her hands. He's been here. He's watching me. I grabbed the phone to steady it. The video continued. He was speaking directly into the camera. You think your mother protected you? You think she's innocent? She lied to you. She lied about everything that night. And now you're mine again. You'll see soon enough. The words hit like ice water. My stomach turned. Rage and fear warred inside me. I had protected her once, and now it seemed he was trying to erase all that protection, all that safety with fear and control. I turned to Olivia. Listen to me, baby. Don't believe him. He's lying. Every word. He's trying to scare you into thinking I hurt you. I never did, and I never will. But we have to act fast. Tears ran down her face. Mom, I don't know if I can do this. He's so strong, so smart. I feel like I can't fight him. I pulled her into my arms again, holding her tightly. You can, because you're not alone. Not this time. We face him together, and we'll make sure he can't hurt you again. Her voice trembled. But what if he comes after us? I swallowed, thinking quickly. Then we make sure he can't. We go to the police. We gather proof. We stop him before he has the chance to manipulate you or anyone else again. He underestimated us, your mother, and you. That's his mistake. I took a deep breath and looked at her. First, we need to figure out where he is. That video, it tells us he's close. We need to trace it, and we need to do it quietly, carefully, so he doesn't know we're onto him. She nodded slowly, determination flickering through the fear. Okay. Together. We'll do this together. I nodded, feeling a surge of strength. Yes, baby. Together.
No lies, no fear, only the truth and justice. The room fell quiet, except for the hum of the video playing on the phone. I watched her, and I knew this was a turning point. The daughter who once believed I stole her joy was finally beginning to see the truth, and together we would expose him. But just as I set the phone down, my own phone buzzed. Another unknown number, another message. I picked it up, dreading what it might say. "You're too late. She's already gone." My blood ran cold, my hands shook. Olivia looked at me, eyes wide with panic. "Mom, what does that mean?" I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. "It means we have to move. Now. Before it's too late. He's escalating. He's dangerous. And if we don't act fast, he could disappear with her completely. We can't wait any longer." I grabbed my coat, my bag, and her hand. "We're leaving. Tonight. We're going somewhere safe. Somewhere he can't touch us. And then we'll figure out how to stop him once and for all." She nodded, clutching my hand tightly. I could feel her fear. Yes, but also her trust. That trust gave me courage I didn't know I still had. And as we stepped out into the night, I knew this was no longer just about protecting her from lies, it was about protecting her life. And nothing, not his threats, not his lies, not his manipulations, would stop me. We barely made it into the car when another message arrived. This one had a picture attached, a picture of Olivia, and it was taken today.
I slid into the driver's seat, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Olivia sat beside me, arms wrapped around herself, staring straight ahead like she was afraid to blink. I tried to steady my breath. I needed to think, and fast. Then my phone buzzed again. A single buzz, short, sharp, almost mocking. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. Image attached. My stomach twisted. I opened it. And for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. The picture showed Olivia walking into our house earlier that afternoon. She had her bag in one hand, her phone in the other. She was looking down, not even aware of anything around her. The angle, the distance, the crisp focus. Someone had taken that picture from across the street, or worse, from a car parked near our house. My throat tightened. I turned the phone toward her. She stared at it, color draining from her face. That's today. Mom, that's when I came to talk to you." "Yes," I whispered. "And it means he's been watching, more closely than we thought." Her breathing quickened. "Mom, he could be here, right now. He could be outside." I reached over and grabbed her hand. "Look at me. He wants you scared. He wants us frozen, but we're leaving, right now. And he won't follow us where we're going." She nodded quickly, wiping her eyes. I turned the ignition. The engine hummed alive, but before I could pull out of the driveway, a text came through. Another one. "Running won't help you. I see everything." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. Olivia covered her mouth, a small gasp escaping. "Mom, he knows we're leaving." "No," I said, trying to stay calm. "He wants us to think he knows, but he doesn't. He's bluffing. He's trying to trap us." I backed out of the driveway quickly, scanning the rearview mirror. Every shadow looked like him. Every parked car felt like a pair of eyes. But I didn't slow down. I couldn't. "We're going somewhere safe," I said quietly. "Somewhere he won't expect. Somewhere he can't reach you." She nodded quickly. "Where?" I pressed my lips together. "My friend Carol's cabin on the far side of Lake Hill. No neighbors, no street cameras, no one knows it exists except me, Carol, and now you." The night swallowed the road as we drove. The farther we got from home,
the more Olivia's breathing softened, but mine didn't. I kept looking in the mirrors, checking headlights, watching to see if a car followed. After half an hour, Olivia whispered, "Mom, can you tell me something?" "Yes, baby." "That night, the one you said you saved me from, the night he keeps hinting about, I only remember pieces. I remember yelling. I remember glass on the floor. I remember crying. But the rest, it's blurry. Why does he keep saying you lied about it?" My chest tightened. That night. The night that split everything open. The night that shaped her fear and my guilt. I swallowed hard. You deserve the truth. And I'll tell you, but not here. Not while we're still out in the open. Once we get to the cabin, once I know we're safe. She nodded, trusting me, but her eyes still held a storm. Just then, the phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look. I didn't want another threat, another picture, another lie. But I glanced anyway, expecting more torment. Instead, it was a single sentence. Tell her. Go on. Tell her what you did. I felt a cold sweat break across my back. He wasn't just watching us earlier. He was watching us now. "Mom," Olivia whispered, "does he know where we're going?" I swallowed. No, he can't. He won't. But deep inside, a terrible thought crept in. If he knew enough to send that message at that exact moment, if he knew enough to anticipate our conversation, maybe he wasn't behind us. Maybe he wasn't monitoring from afar. Maybe he had someone else feeding him information. Someone close. Someone inside our life. My hands tightened on the wheel. This wasn't just a man stalking my daughter. This was a web, a setup, a trap years in the making, and I was only beginning to understand how deep it went. Just as we reached the edge of the lake, Olivia's phone rang, and the name on the screen made my heart drop. It wasn't him. It was someone we trusted. Someone who should not have known we were driving to the lake.
I walked into my own living room and found something on the table that made my knees shake. It was small, ordinary, but it told me everything I needed to know about why my daughter suddenly hated me. I didn't even sit down. I just stood there staring at it, afraid to touch it, afraid to breathe. It felt like the room grew colder around me. It was a picture I had never seen before. A picture my daughter had clearly never wanted me to find. And the moment I picked it up, my heart dropped into my stomach. It was Lily, maybe 5 or 6 years old, standing in front of a birthday cake, but not her own. Beside her was a woman, not me, a woman with a warm smile and gentle eyes. And written on the back, my God, it said, "My favorite girl, always remember you are loved, Aunt Maria." I hadn't heard that name in decades. My hands trembled so badly I had to put the photo down before I dropped it. For the first time in my life, I understood the strange distance my daughter had always had toward me. The sudden coldness, the hidden anger, the way she said I stole her joy. She wasn't talking about birthdays. She wasn't talking about motherhood. She was talking about her childhood, and the part of her childhood I had buried so deep that even I stopped letting myself think about it. I closed my eyes, and just like that, the past came rushing back, loud and sharp. The shouting, the sirens, the promise I made at the police station,
The night I told Lily something no child should ever be told. Something that changed the way she saw me forever. And maybe she had been right to hate me. I sank into the couch, pressing my hand against my mouth to stop the sob that tried to escape. I whispered to the empty room, "Oh God, she remembered." All these years, I thought she was too young to remember what happened. But that picture proved she remembered everything. And what she remembered wasn't the truth. Not the full truth. Not the part that would save us both. I sat there until the sun slid behind the trees and shadows filled the room. I knew I had only one choice now. I had to tell her. Everything. The whole story. Even the parts that broke me. But before I could stand up, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Just 2 words. She knows. And when I read those 2 words, something inside me froze. Because there was only one person who could have sent that message. One person who had been silent for years. One person who held the final piece of the truth. And he had finally come back. Why would he suddenly reach out after all these years? And how did he know my daughter had finally remembered the past I swore to protect her from? The truth will change everything again.
The moment I saw that message, "She knows," my whole body turned cold. I felt like I was standing on thin ice, listening to it crack under my feet. Because there was only one person who ever used that phrase with me. One person who swore that if the truth ever leaked out, he'd disappear for good. And he did, for almost 30 years. Until now. I stared at the screen for a long time, hoping it was a mistake, hoping it was spam, hoping it was anyone else on this planet. But deep down, I knew. You can't mistake the voice of someone who once held your whole life in their hands. I typed a single word back. Who? No reply. I let out a shaky breath. Coward, I whispered. But anger wasn't what filled me. It was fear. Old fear. Fear I thought I buried when Lily was a child. Fear I carried alone because no one else knew the full story. Not my friends. Not my husband, not even Lily. The truth was too heavy, too sharp, too dangerous. I walked to the kitchen to get some water, but halfway there I had to grab the counter because my legs were shaking so badly. I could feel memories pushing their way up, like weeds breaking through old concrete. I remembered the night everything changed. The night I showed up crying at the police station. The night I signed papers I barely understood. The night I promised a scared little girl that mommy would keep her safe, no matter what. A promise I wasn't sure I kept. I thought about how Lily looked at me earlier that week, the coldness in her eyes, the way she called me a thief of joy. She thought I ruined her life. She thought I took something from her that she never got back. But she didn't know what I saved her from. She didn't know who I saved her from, and she didn't know that the person who just texted me was the same person who nearly destroyed both of us. I went back to the living room and sat down, clutching the photo of little Lily with Aunt Maria. God, that woman. For years I blamed her, hated her, avoided her name. But now holding that picture, all I felt was sadness and a little shame. I whispered, I should have told her. I should have told her sooner. Because hiding the truth didn't protect anyone. It only widened the space between us. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a call. Blocked number. But I knew. Every bone in me knew. I let it ring twice. Then I picked up. I didn't say anything. I just breathed. A man's voice finally spoke. Calm. Steady. Too familiar. It's time, he said. That girl of yours remembers more than you think. My throat closed. I forced out, stay away from her. He chuckled.
Not loud, but cruel. Maybe you should have said that 30 years ago. Then the line went dead. I sat there, gripping the phone like it was burning my hand. My mind spun. My chest felt tight, because if he was back, everything I had tried so hard to protect was about to collapse. I whispered into the empty room, "Dear God, what does Lily remember? And more importantly, what does he want from us now?" Just when I thought I could breathe again, I heard a car door slam outside my house, and the footsteps coming toward my porch told me I was already too late.
I wasn't ready when I heard the footsteps on my porch. They were slow and heavy, like someone who wasn't afraid to be heard, someone who wanted me to know he was there. I froze in the hallway, feeling my heart thump against my ribs. For a moment, I wondered if it was him, the man who called, the man I prayed I'd never see again. But then a second sound followed. A soft knock. Not loud, not angry, just steady. And that was somehow worse. I took a breath, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. My knees nearly gave out. It wasn't him. It was Lily. My daughter stood on my porch with her arms wrapped tightly around herself, like she wasn't sure if she should knock again or run away. Her face was pale, her eyes were red, and she looked lost. Not angry, not cruel, not proud, just lost. I opened the door slowly. She didn't step inside. She didn't even look at me at first. "Mom," she whispered. I hadn't heard her call me that in months. I swallowed. "Come in, sweetheart." She hesitated for a long moment before crossing the threshold. And when she didn't move far. She stood by the door like she was ready to run back out. I knew she found something. Something in that picture. Something in her memories. Something that scared her. I didn't ask questions right away. I just walked to the living room, sat down, and waited. I wanted her to feel she wasn't being cornered. She followed slowly, then sat on the very edge of the couch, clutching her phone as if it was the only thing holding her together. After a long silence, she said, "Someone texted me." I felt the air leave me lungs. "What did they say?" She looked at me with eyes that were both angry and frightened. They said, "Ask your mother about the night you disappeared." I felt a sharp pain in my chest. The night you disappeared. I closed my eyes. That night. The night I carried her out of a house filled with screaming. The night the police took our statements. The night an officer told me, "She's too young to remember. This stays between adults." But someone wanted her to remember now. Lily continued, her voice trembling. "Mom, did I disappear? Was I taken? What happened to me?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw the little girl she used to be, the one who used to hide behind my legs, the one who used to fall asleep on my chest, the one who trusted me with her whole world. This wasn't a moment to lie. Not anymore. "Lily," I whispered, "you didn't disappear. I took you. I took you because I had to." She stared at me like she'd been struck. "You took me?" I nodded slowly. "If I hadn't, you wouldn't be here." She swallowed hard but pushed anyway. "From who?" My hands shook. Her voice cracked. "Mom, from who?" I felt tears burning my eyes. The truth was heavy, ugly, sharp. And speaking it aloud meant reopening wounds I spent decades keeping closed. But she deserved the truth. I opened my mouth to finally tell her. But before a single word came out, her phone buzzed again. She looked down, her whole face drained of color. She turned the screen toward me. The text said, "Tell her the truth, Elaine, or I will." My real name, my full name. A name only one man used. The man who swore he'd never let his story die. Lily whispered, "Mom, who is he?" I took her phone with shaking hands. And right then, we both heard it. A car engine. Idling outside my house. Someone was waiting. Before I could explain anything, Lily ran to the window, and the person sitting in that car was the very last face she ever expected to see. The moment Lily reached the window, she gasped so loudly it made my heart leap. She covered her mouth with both hands and stumbled back like she'd seen a ghost. For a second, I thought she might faint. I hurried to her side. "What? Who is it?" She pointed at the driveway with a shaking finger. Her voice broke. "Mom, that's my father." My breath caught. No, it couldn't be. Her father had disappeared from our lives when Lily was still learning to write her name. He promised he'd stay away. A court order forced him to. I spent years terrified he would show up anyway. And now, there he was, sitting in a dark car in my driveway, waiting. I stepped closer to the window. My hands tightened on the curtain. There he sat. The same hard jaw, the same cold eyes hidden behind sunglasses, older but unmistakable. It was him. Lily backed away like she'd been pushed. "Why is he here? Why now? You told me he left because he didn't want us." I felt tears rush to my eyes. "I said that to protect you." She shook her head, confused and trembling. "Protect me from what? Mom, tell me the truth." I turned away from the window because looking at him made my skin crawl. It pulled every ugly memory out of the dark corners of my mind. His shouting, his fists, his rage. The night he came home drunk and smashed every plate in the kitchen. The night he grabbed little Lily so hard she screamed. And then, the worst night of all, the night I knew I had to run. I took a slow breath. "Lily, your father is not the man you think he is." She stared at me, searching my face. "What does that mean? Why is he texting me? Why is he outside your house?" Her voice cracked again. "And what happened the night I disappeared? Why can't I remember?" Because trauma steals memory. Because children forget to survive. Because evil sometimes wears a familiar face. I sat down, feeling the weight of the past settle on my shoulders. "Sweetheart, the night you disappeared, I didn't lose you. I rescued you." She didn't move, didn't blink. Her whole world was tilting, and I could see it. I continued slowly, choosing each word like it could cut her. "Your father wasn't just angry. He was dangerous. I didn't tell you because you were too young to understand. And as you grew, I didn't want to give you nightmares about a man who used to hurt us both." Her eyes filled with tears. "Hurt? Us?" I nodded. "He put you in danger. More times than you know. And that last night, the night I took you, he was out of control." Lily covered her mouth again, her shoulders shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to grow up thinking you were unwanted. I thought if I kept the past quiet, you could have a clean slate." She swallowed hard. "And Aunt Maria? She was there too. She loved me. Why did she disappear?" The name hit me like a blow. Aunt Maria, his sister, the only person who tried to help us, the only one he turned against when she spoke up. I whispered, "Your father made sure she stayed away." Lily's face twisted with anger and confusion. "So he returns now? After all these years? For what? Revenge? Money? Attention?" My voice came out small. "He wants control again. He always did." Just then, a soft vibration filled the room. Lily's phone. She lifted it slowly. A new message from the same blocked number. 3 words. "Come outside alone." She looked at me, terrified. "Mom, what do we do?" I walked to her and took the phone from her trembling hand. And I felt something inside me shift, a strength I hadn't needed in years. "We don't go anywhere near him," I said softly. "But I think it's time he learns he can't control us anymore." Before I could finish the sentence, we both heard the sharp click of a car door opening, and his footsteps started moving straight toward my front steps. The moment I heard those footsteps coming up my porch, my whole body went tense. It was the same sound I remembered from years ago. Heavy, sure of itself, A man who believed no one would ever stand up to him. A man who thought fear was owed to him like respect. Lily grabbed my arm. "Mom, he's coming." Her voice was so small and scared that it nearly crushed me. For a second, she wasn't a grown woman anymore. She was that same trembling child who used to hide behind my skirt. And that was when something inside me hardened. I wasn't that terrified young mother anymore, and she isn't his victim anymore. Not today. I took a deep breath and whispered, "Stay behind me." He reached the door. No knock this time, just silence. The heavy kind that fills the air before lightning strikes. Then a sharp voice cut through it. "Elaine, open the door." Lily flinched. I didn't. I stepped toward the door, but didn't touch it. "You have no right to be here." He laughed softly, like he found that amusing. "I have every right," he said. "You kept my daughter from me." His daughter? My stomach twisted. "She's not a possession," I said. "She's a human being." His hand hit the door. Not a knock, a warning. "Let me in." I moved Lily farther back with one hand, keeping my eyes on the door. "You're not coming into my home." Another laugh. Cold, sharp, familiar. "You think I can't force my way in?" I felt Lily's breath catch behind me. She whispered, "Mom, call the police." But calling the police meant opening old files, old secrets, old statements, things I wasn't sure Lily was ready to hear yet. "Not yet," I whispered back. From the porch, he spoke again, voice lower now. "Lily, I know you're in there. You got my texts. I just want to talk." Her whole body shivered. No, I don't want to talk to him." He heard it, and his tone sharpened. "She needs answers, Elaine, and if you won't give them to her, I will." I felt anger rush through me. "You don't get to rewrite history," I said calmly. He stepped closer to the door. "History? You mean the night you stole her from her bed? The night you ran away like a criminal?" My hands clenched. "That's not what happened," I said. And Lily heard my pain in my voice. I could feel her staring at me, searching for truth or memory, for something she could hold on to. "Mom, what is he talking about?" I closed my eyes for a moment. I had spent so long hiding the past to keep her safe. Now hiding it was hurting her. "He's twisting it," I told her softly. "He didn't run away. I escaped. With you." He slammed his palm against the door again. "Lies!" he barked. "You were unstable. You were overwhelmed. You nearly dropped her that night." I cut him off. "That's enough." Because that was the lie he'd always used to cover the truth. His rage, his drinking, his violence, the broken lamp, the bruises on my arms, and the way he yanked Lily so hard she screamed. Then he said something he'd never said before, and it made my blood run cold. "You didn't save her. You took something from me, but you also took something from her. She remembers more than you think." Lily's breath caught. What did I see? What do I remember? Before I could answer, he said, "Open the door. Let me jog your memory." She took a step back like he had struck her. I turned away from the door, cupped her face gently, and said, "Sweetheart, you do not owe him anything. Not your presence, not your attention, not your fear." Her eyes filled. Then why do I feel like I know something I shouldn't? Because she did. Before I could explain more, he tried the handle. It clicked. He laughed under his breath. "You didn't lock it, Elaine. You're slipping." My heart jumped. I lunged forward and twisted the deadbolt just as the knob turned. He hit the door from the other side, this time harder. Willie screamed. I held the door steady with both hands. And that was when a third voice came from behind us. "Step away from the door." Lily and I spun around. A figure stood in my hallway. Someone I never expected to see again. The person standing in my hallway held up a badge, and the truth about that night
The night Lily disappeared was about to come out, whether I was ready or not.
The figure in the hallway held up a badge. Not a badge I recognized at first, not something from years ago, but it was official. Law enforcement. A real badge. And behind it, a face I hadn't seen in decades. Someone who had been part of my life on the night everything changed. "Elaine Carter," the officer said, calm, measured. "We need to talk about your daughter." I froze. Lily clutched my arm like I was the only safe thing in the room. What's happening?" she whispered, voice trembling. The officer stepped closer. "It's time she learns the truth. About that night, about everything you thought you protected her from." I swallowed hard. My chest tightened. This was it, the moment I dreaded for years. I had kept the secret to protect her, to protect us both. But now, the secret was no longer mine to keep. The officer motioned for me to sit, and I did. My hands trembled. Lily stayed close, her eyes wide and searching mine for answers I wasn't sure I could give. The officer began slowly, carefully. "Elaine, the night Lily went missing, you weren't the only one there. There was another witness, someone who stayed quiet for decades. They've come forward now because it's time for Lily to understand what really happened." My stomach dropped. A witness? After all these years? Who could it be? "And your daughter," the officer continued, looking directly at Lily now, "the reason she's been so angry, so distant, is because part of the truth has been hidden from her. You, Elaine, did what you thought was right. But Lily, she's always sensed something was off, something that didn't match the story she was told. And that's why she blamed you for stealing her joy." Lily's face went pale. Her lower lip trembled. I reached for her hand. "Baby, listen to me. You didn't understand. You weren't supposed to. I never wanted to hurt you." The officer nodded. "Now, Lily, you need to hear it in full. The part of the night your mother saved you, the part no one told you, the part that's been manipulated all these years by someone who wants to control you even now." I swallowed hard. "I think it's time she knows why I had to hide the truth from her father, from the world, and even from her. Lily, the truth will shock you, but it's the only way you'll understand why I did what I did." Her eyes filled with tears. "Mom, I'm ready. I need to know." I nodded. "Then listen carefully, because this story, it's about your life, your safety, and everything I ever fought to protect you from." And as I began to speak, the weight of decades pressed down on me, but I knew this moment, this confession, was the only thing that could finally bridge the gap between us. But just as I started telling Lily the full story, the front door rattled violently. Someone was trying to get in, and I realized, with a sinking feeling, the person who wanted to control this story, and us, wasn't going to wait for the truth to come out.
The door shook so hard this time that the picture frames on the wall rattled. Lily jumped. The officer spun toward the noise, and I felt something inside me snap. Not fear, but the cold, sharp understanding that the past wasn't knocking anymore. It was trying to break its way in. From the other side of the door came a shout. "Open it! Now!" Lily squeezed my arm. "Mom, he's losing it." Yes, he was. It was the same voice I remembered from years ago, the same voice that filled our house with fear. But this time, I wasn't that helpless woman, and Lily wasn't that vulnerable little girl, and we weren't alone. The officer stepped forward, hand on his holster. "Stay back," he said firmly. "He doesn't get in that door." Another slam, harder. The whole doorframe shuddered. The officer narrowed his eyes. "He knows we're inside. He's agitated. He wasn't expecting to see law enforcement with you." Lily whispered, "Why is he even here? Why today? Why now?" I turned to her, my heart breaking with the truth I had avoided for so long. Because someone stirred up the past, I said softly. And someone told him you were remembering things you shouldn't. Her eyes widened. Remembering what? Before I could answer, the officer held up a hand. Elaine, Lily, listen carefully. Before I can explain the full truth, you need to understand something about your father that was never revealed. Lily leaned in, her breath shaking. What? What about him? The officer took a slow breath, and then he said something that made the air in the room turn cold. He isn't here to reconnect with you. He isn't here because of love or regret. He's here because the statute of limitations on his past offenses is about to run out, and he wants to wipe the last piece of evidence that can destroy him. Lily frowned. Evidence? What evidence? You, the officer said. You are the evidence. Lily staggered back. Me? What does that mean? What did I see? The officer looked at me, then at her. Your father was under investigation the night you disappeared. And you, Lily, were the only witness in the house besides your mother. You were 4 years old, but you saw something no child should ever see. Tears filled Lily's eyes. I don't remember anything. I barely remember that house. I barely remember those nights. I touched her hand gently. That's because trauma buries memories so deep, you don't even know they exist. Another crash against the door, this time louder. He was desperate now. Lily flinched so hard she nearly fell. The officer stepped closer to the door, raising his voice a little. Back away, or I will draw my weapon. Silence. Then a low, mocking laugh from the porch. A laugh that made Lily collapse into a chair, shaking. Mom, just tell me. Tell me what I saw. I sat beside her, holding her trembling hand in both of mine. You saw what he did to Aunt Maria, I said in a quiet voice. Her entire body froze. Aunt Maria? Her voice broke into pieces. She disappeared? You always said she moved away. You said she... I lied because the truth would have broken you, and because telling it would have put you in danger. The officer nodded. That's the missing piece, Lily. Your aunt didn't disappear. Something happened that night. Something your father has tried to bury for 20 years. Lily shook her head, her breath coming fast. But what happened? What did he do? Another slam made the hinges groan. But this time, Lily didn't flinch. She stared straight at me, eyes demanding the truth. I felt my throat tighten. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I couldn't hide it anymore. Sweetheart, my voice trembled. You saw your father hurt her, and you saw more than you were ever supposed to. Lily's face went white. Her hand flew to her mouth. She let out a small broken sound. No, Mom, no! I pulled her into my arms, holding her trembling hand in both of mine. He wants to force himself back into your life. Not because he loves you, not because he misses you, but because you, your memory, could ruin him. The officer stepped toward us. We need to move into the back room, now. Stay low, stay quiet. He's escalating. But just as we stood up, a loud crack split the air. The lock snapped, the door creaked open by an inch. And through that narrow opening, I saw his eye. Cold, focused, and staring straight at Lily. Through the narrow crack in the door, I saw him. Just one eye. Cold, sharp, calculating. And I knew immediately he wasn't just angry. He was hunting for control, for power, for fear. Lily froze behind me, her small body trembling, clutching my hand like a lifeline. Mom, she whispered. Mom, what do we do? I took a deep breath. There's only one thing we can do. Stay calm. Don't show fear. Follow me. The officer nodded and gestured toward the back hallway. Elaine, Lily, move. Now. Stay quiet, stay close to the walls. He can't know what room you're heading to. I grabbed Lily's arm gently and led her backward, toward the kitchen door that opened into the hallway we'd prepared as a temporary safe zone. Every step felt like walking on shards of glass. Every breath was shallow. Every sound could be the last moment of calm before chaos. The door rattled again. He was forcing it, not breaking yet, just testing, just asserting. I whispered, "Almost there. Almost safe." Lily's eyes were wide with terror. "Mom, he's coming!" I could hear the scrape of his shoes against the porch mat. The officer whispered, "Just a few more steps. He hasn't entered yet. Don't panic." We reached the hallway. I pressed a finger to my lips. "Shh." Lily pressed herself against the wall, trembling. I could feel her pulse racing through her body, and I knew she was terrified not just for herself, but for the truth she was about to learn. Then the door suddenly gave a sudden shove, groaning under the force. The crack widened, and I saw him, full silhouette this time, a shadow in the doorway, massive and menacing. He stopped, his head tilted slightly, and I knew he could sense us. He could smell our fear. "Lily," I whispered softly, "you're stronger than you think. Look at me, right at me, not him." She obeyed, eyes wide, tears streaming. Her little hands shook in mine. He pushed harder. The door rattled violently, and then he spoke, voice low, venomous. "Elaine, I warned you. Give me my daughter. Let me explain everything before it's too late." I stepped forward, keeping myself between him and Lily. "No, you don't get to explain. Not now, not ever. You can't touch her again." He smirked. And that smirk, it was the same smirk I'd seen decades ago, the one that promised pain. "I think you'll change your mind," he said, and then he pushed the door just a little more. The officer raised his voice sharply, "Step back, or I will use force." He froze for a second, and in that second, I realized something. He wasn't just coming for Lily. He wanted the story, the secret I had carried all these years, the one memory that could destroy him if it ever came out. I gritted my teeth. "Lily," I whispered, "you need to hear everything, right now, all of it." Her face went pale. "All of it?" "Yes," I said, voice steady despite my pounding heart. "It's the only way he loses control, the only way he can't hurt us again. You're ready. I know you are." She swallowed hard and nodded. "I'm ready. Tell me, Mom, everything." And just as I began, the door suddenly burst open with a force I didn't expect, slamming against the wall. The man stepped inside. And in that moment, the room froze. Every second stretched into eternity because everything was about to come out. He's inside, he knows we're together, and the truth I've kept hidden for decades, is finally going to explode between us.
He stepped inside, and the air changed. The kind of heavy, suffocating tension that makes your chest tighten and your throat dry. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I stood my ground. Lily clung to me like I was the only safe place in the world. His eyes locked on hers, cold, calculating, like he could reach inside her mind and pull out every hidden memory. "You think you're ready," he said, voice low and cruel, "but you have no idea what's coming." I tightened my grip on Lily's hand. "We've faced enough," I said softly. "You don't control anything anymore." He laughed, a sound that made the room tremble. "I always control everything," he spat. "And you never stopped me, not even when you tried to hide her from me." Lily's voice broke. "Mom, what did he do to me?" I swallowed hard, my own voice catching in my throat. "Not anymore. I saved you, Lily. That's all that matters."
But he didn't move toward her, not yet. Instead, he circled us like a predator, eyes flicking between the two of us and the officer. You think hiding the truth protects her? You think she doesn't remember? Lily flinched at the words. I remember flashes, Mom. The pictures, the screams. I felt my stomach drop. The memories she had buried, the ones I'd tried to shield her from, and now they were surfacing unstoppable. The officer stepped forward. Back away from them now, he commanded. But he didn't. He smirked and leaned slightly closer to Lily. And I bet she remembers more than you think, he said, voice dripping with malice. And I'm going to make sure she never forgets it. I felt a wave of fury crash over me. No, I said firmly, you don't get to touch her, to manipulate her, or to rewrite the past. Everything you think you own, you don't. For a brief second, his smirk faltered, and that gave me the courage I needed. I moved slightly forward, shielding Lily completely, and began telling her everything. The night he lost control, the bruises I hid, the threats I endured, and the desperate choice I made to take her away. Her eyes widened in shock. Her lips quivered. She pressed her hand against her mouth, and as I spoke, something changed in the room. He stopped. His posture stiffened. The confident predator I'd feared for years faltered. You whispered. You're exposing it all. Yes, I said, voice strong, unwavering, and you're not going to scare us anymore. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but they were no longer just fear. They were strength, the strength I had been trying to give her all these years. He looked at us, realizing finally that fear had left the room, and in that moment, I knew the past could no longer control the present. But he wasn't finished. He lunged suddenly, desperate, reckless, trying to snatch the control back. The officer moved faster than I expected, restraining him just in time. Lily gasped, leaning against me. I can't believe it, she whispered. You kept me safe all these years. I held her close. You were always safe, baby. I never stopped fighting for you. He struggled, cursing, realizing his power was gone, and I realized something too. The story that had haunted us both for decades was finally coming to an end, but just as I thought we were safe, a piece of paper fluttered to the floor from his pocket, and what was written on it changed everything we thought we knew about that night.
The paper hit the floor with a soft flutter, but it felt deafening in the tense silence of the room. I froze. Lily froze. Even the officer paused, sensing that this was no ordinary document. I bent down slowly, heart pounding, and picked it up. It was a note, handwritten, the kind of messy scrawl you see when someone is desperate or angry. And then I saw it. It wasn't just a note. It was a confession from him. The words burned into my eyes. She saw more than she should. She knows everything. I have to make sure she doesn't tell. My knees nearly buckled. He had been planning this for years, not just to control her, but to erase any trace of his crimes. Lily stared at me, mouth open. Mom, he wrote this? About me? I nodded slowly, my throat tight. Yes, baby. He's been lying and planning for decades. And this note, this proves everything I tried to protect you from. She wrapped her arms around me, shaking. But why now? Why today? I swallowed hard. Because he's desperate. He knows his time is almost up. And now that you're remembering, now that you're stronger, he thinks he can regain control. The officer stepped forward, examining the note. He said firmly, "This is enough. Enough to arrest him and enough to protect both of you from any further harm." The man struggled against the officer's hold,
rage spilling from every pore. "You can't do this! You don't understand! She can't remember!" Lily's eyes narrowed. "I remember enough," she said, voice trembling but strong. "And I'm not afraid of you anymore." I felt tears fill my eyes. She had grown so much. All those years of hiding the truth, of protecting her, had led to this moment where she could stand up not just for herself, but for justice. He screamed something unintelligible, but the officer held firm. "You've lost control," I said softly, almost to myself. "And the past no longer has power over us." Lily looked at me, eyes wide and filled with awe. "Mom, all these years, I thought you stole my joy. But you gave me life. You gave me safety. You were my hero." I pulled her into my arms, holding her tightly. "Yes, baby, I was always your hero, and now we're finally free." The officer led him away, cuffed and powerless. For the first time in decades, the house felt quiet, safe. Lily leaned her head on my shoulder. "I have so many questions." I smiled through my tears. "And I'll answer every single one, baby. Every single one." But even as the front door clicked shut behind him, a shadow lingered in my mind. The past had been revealed, but its echoes weren't done with us yet. Because when I looked down at the note again, tucked under his scrawled words, I noticed a second message, one he had never intended me to see. And it changed everything about that night. Everything. I picked up the note again, my hands trembling. At first, I thought I had read it all, but tucked beneath the original words, faintly scribbled in the corner, was another line. "She knows the truth about Aunt Maria. She must never tell." My stomach dropped. It wasn't just about Lily. It was about her aunt, the one who had disappeared all those years ago, the one he had tried to erase from our lives entirely. Lily's eyes widened as she leaned over my shoulder. "Mom, what does it say?" I swallowed hard, my voice barely above a whisper. "It says, he knew you saw something about Aunt Maria. That's why he wanted to keep you from remembering. That's why he blamed me for stealing your joy. He never wanted you to uncover the truth." Her face paled. "All these years, I hated you for what? For keeping me safe?" I nodded, tears rolling down my cheeks. "Yes, baby. I did it to protect you. From him, from the memories, from the truth that could have broken you when you were too small to fight it." She pulled me into her arms tightly, sobbing. I thought you didn't love me, that you didn't care. But now I understand. You saved me. You always saved me." I held her close, feeling every tremble in her small, grown-up body. "Yes, baby," I whispered. "And I always will." The officer came over gently. "We have enough evidence now," he said quietly. "He's going away for a long time. You and your daughter are safe. You finally have closure." I nodded, exhausted but relieved. For the first time in decades, the shadow over our lives felt like it was lifting. Lily looked at me, eyes shining through tears. "Mom, can we finally be free? Can we finally live without fear?" I smiled, feeling the weight of years lift from my shoulders. "Yes, baby, we can. We will." And in that moment, I realized something powerful. The anger, the pain, the years of confusion, none of it could touch us anymore. Not when we had each other. Not when we faced the truth together. We walked to the living room, holding hands, finally letting the tension ease. Outside,
The sun was beginning to rise, painting the sky in soft gold and pink. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt hope. Hope that Lily would heal. Hope that I had done right by her. Hope that we could finally start again. She looked up at me with a small, shaky smile. "Mom, thank you for everything." I kissed her forehead softly. "You don't need to thank me, baby. You survived. You grew strong. And that's all I ever wanted." We sat together in silence for a long moment, letting the quiet fill the spaces the fear had occupied for so long. And as the morning light bathed the room, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The past had tried to control us. The past had tried to hurt us. But we had faced it, together. And nothing, no lie, no secret, no threat, could ever take our joy again.